away we go.
That's a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a safe and wonderful New Year.
Good morning,
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Okay.
Oh, no.
it's the holiday season.
Yeah, it's the holiday season. We're still here, and Santa's second cousin is in the room. And I don't know if you can see here. It's hard to say. Let's see if we can see it. I got the list. Right in my pocket. And my chair's falling down because Santa's cousin's got a few pounds on him. And I use the magical white handkerchief. Let's make sure I got the date right today. Today is the 4th of December in the calendar year 2021 for some of you folks, 1521 for others. And I'm going to show you something, a little new addition to the show. We'll get that out of the way. We'll see if this thing works. I don't even know if this is going to work. There we go. If you look here at my coffee mug and you see there's a light, it's a heater, coffee mug warmer. I picked it up for $9 on Amazon. Hope it doesn't crack my mug. I get tired of warm cold coffee, and so it's a hot cup. You just plug it in, and it's allegedly, it's a neat idea, Just has a little switch on it. My hand. And by the way, for someone who hasn't seen this show before, the way the studio looks, see, that's the music computer. And it's got its own keyboard. And then we've got this main computer here, which is like through the matrix here. See, this is a glitch in the matrix. This is the one thing like physics can't explain. Look at me into infinity. Well, that's not logical. There's no that's See, it's a mistake. It's a glitch in the matrix. Anyway, another keyboard here, and again the hot warmer. As you can see, it's just this round thing. It's got a little pilot light on it. And then up here is how I monitor what's happened in the past. You see? And that's how that works. So, and then we've got some like tiki lights on the other side of the room and some stocking hanging for me and the kitty. And as you can see, the time here is 3:08 a.m. All right, we're done with that. I'm going to disconnect that phone. It says it's 96% charged. By the end of the day or the show, it'll be like down to like 70. That battery's going. Whatever brought you here was probably this. A blast from the past, flow of consciousness. Well, that's the whole thing.
It's the holiday season.
So I like to, I like the nightlife.
That's a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a safe and wonderful New Year.
And we'll keep that Eddie Money track on for a little while. Anyway, I got a bunch of news to cover. It's like I said, it's 3:08 a.m. and It's funny. Yesterday's show, I got up at midnight. I was up at midnight, and I was up all day. I didn't go to, I went to sleep early last night, about 6 or something like that. And didn't wake up today till 2, so I got a full 8 hours. Had a little bit of breakfast, some cereal type of thing with some berries and stuff like that. But that coffee's hot. Now, how long that heater or that hot plate and how safe this thing is, I don't know. The wire doesn't seem to be getting hot. And 17 watts isn't an awful lot of wattage. So we'll be getting to this blast from the past in a little bit. But first, let's just run down the wire of the things we usually do. And since it still is the weekend, as they say. Right, it's the
weekend.
Let's look at
Weekend weather.
So, the weekend weather. And here's a view of pretty much the most recent satellite image loop of the former United States. And it seems as if you see that jet stream, what I was calling a jet stream, these clouds that are coming across the upper tier of the U.S., Canada. Do you notice it slowed down from the past couple days? Yeah. It seems that way. It was really like zipping, and we had a lot of heavy winds. So a little more clouds down in the mid-southern states. Again, I hate to just blow off the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, but that pattern just repeats itself endlessly. And you've lived there, that. You know what to expect this time of year. It seems that there's some kind of activity that's like stalled off of the California coast. I have no idea what that is, if that's an anomaly or just something really weird, right? All that blue stuff that just seems to be standing still. But, and there's some storms exploding down, if you look at the very bottom of the screen, way down South America way, the tip of South America. But other than that, the clouds look fairly light. You may have some lake effect snow, and the usual flurries or what have you. In my neck of the woods, currently outside, it's 37 degrees, and it looks like that's going to be a constant for at least the next 4 or 5 hours. And then it's going to get up to in the 40s later today, but below freezing overnight. Sunday's kind of the similar mid 40s and then into the maybe high 30s. And then Monday is the rain day where it's going to be like it was, I guess last week we had one of those days where I guess you're going to get some kind of southerly flow or something that's going to bring up some warmer air. So it might pop into the 50s. But then it's going to shoot way down to 25. And just a way look ahead, and when you forecast this far ahead, you can't really trust. But it looks like Wednesday's a snow day, 36 as the high and 27 as the low. So we may be getting some snow next week, but we'll have to just wait on that. So, anyway, that's your
Weekend weather.
And I'm back. And I'm trying to control all of these things. By the way, in case you don't know or you haven't figured it out.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah, I'm just tired. I'm a little tired today. We'll see if the coffee wakes me up. I don't know. I have a little bit of a news extra thing here. You can see my eyes are tired. I don't know. It's like, it's weird. And I'm sorry if you heard that slurp. You probably didn't, because this isn't this is like a directional mic, not omnidirectional. I don't like to take medicines or aspirins or anything like that because of the side effects of them, but I probably should have taken like an ibuprofen or something like that. Not that I have a headache, but it's just like my nose, I just feel a little bit under the weather. I guess that's what it is. But who knows? It's hard to say. So, now, about a week ago or so, we were like the first to break this story about this Omicron thing from South Africa. And the news from the doctors in South Africa was released saying that it was mild symptoms, and now it seems that this Omicron, South Africa has sharp increase in hospitalized children. CBS News. Daily Beast. Unprecedented Omicron surge in South Africa is hitting children under age 5. CNN. South African researchers find evidence people more easily reinfected with Omicron. Fox News. Omicron-stricken South Africa may be a glimpse into a future of COVID-19. BBC News. COVID cases surge in South Africa where Omicron variant emerged. Omicron COVID-19 cases have quadrupled. I think there's something like 16,000 reported cases. Washington Post. Coronavirus cases in South Africa nearly triple in 3 days as fears over Omicron grow. And that's right direct from Google News, and those are the headlines from those various news reporting agencies. And like I said, I don't know. I'm just reporting and showing you. It stood out. I normally don't, like I say, this flies in the face of what the original doctor had said. They're not, they're saying cases have quadrupled. One says cases nearly tripled. So the Post is saying nearly triple, and CNN is saying have quadrupled. So I don't know. Though there is a day difference between those reporting. And then some have unprecedented, sharp increase. Researchers find, Omicron stricken. All right. And again, 16,000 people out of, what is the population? Let's take a look. Let's go to population of South Africa. Nearly 60 million people. So, that's kind of the same thing that we had going here, but I don't want to get into it. But you know what I mean. 60 million, that means if you had 10% would be 6 million, 1% would be 600,000, 0.1% would be what, 60,000, 0.01% would be 6,000. So we're somewhere around 0.0, maybe 2 to 3%, 0.02.5%. All right, to put that in perspective, 0.02. So that would mean 99, let's be generous, 99.7% of the people in South Africa have not contracted it. 99.7 or 8%, 99.8 more likely. All right, have not contracted it. And so it's interesting, so someone says 16,000 people. Yeah, but in a country of 60 million people, you see what I mean? That's 99 point, 72% or 8%. You see what I mean? So 99% of the people aren't. And that was the same here. 99% of the people didn't die, from this thing. It's like TV ratings, you know what I mean? They say, "Oh, hey, they've got 1 million viewers, 3 million viewers." And you go, "Yeah, what? That's like 1% of the population. 99% of the people aren't watching that. But they have 3 million viewers." Yeah. So like in the US, if 3 million people were stricken with it, that would mean it was only 1% of the population. So 99% of the people. And in any other instance, you understand that. See, people don't, it's figures lie, liars figure, percentage. I try to bring that out often because it's just one of those things. The way they twist and kind of like mold and condition the minds and play with numbers so much, particularly with media and politicians, that's their game, that sometimes you have to look at it from a different side. And you have to say, if I told you if you go out today, there's a 99% chance that it won't rain, you go, I'm not taking the umbrella. Right? You know what I mean? If I told you there's a 99% chance that it will rain, you go, give me that umbrella. Right? And so the same with this thing. If I said there's a 99% chance that you won't get this thing, you're not going to get seriously ill from this thing. You see how you would approach it totally differently. But if I said 3 million people have already got, then you would be like, oh my God. And same in South Africa. 16 million people have got this thing. Yeah, but 99.7% or 8% haven't. So anyway, it's just something to keep in mind when you hear people. Watch out for people when they use statistics and whether or not they're using percentages or raw numbers, because they use them to their convenience, especially fearmongers, in order to give an impact to you. Right? And a lot of people miss that. They just don't they don't grasp that at all. But it's important. In other news, since I always talk about, I have a locals account, tonycaravan.locals.com. Not exactly sure where this whole thing's going, but this is kind of an interesting thing. I got this in the mail today since I'm on Rumble and Locals. And everyone knows or should know by now that that basically Rumble bought Locals. And this is from the CEO, and basically and a lot of companies do this now, they want to get on the NASDAQ or they want to get on the stock exchange in some way, shape, or form. So what they do is they combine with the business that's already listed somehow. So then it's like, oh, blammo, you're on there. And so, in effect, what they're doing is, Rumble is creating the rails to a new infrastructure that will not be bullied by cancel culture. And I'll just read some of the stuff. We are a movement that does not stifle, censor, or punish creativity or freedom of expression. We believe everyone benefits when they have access to more ideas and diverse opinions. And I'm on Locals, and I have the ability, and I've already done a live webcast, on there, a brief one, however, just, so it's, it has that ability. And so, this is just interesting development because, this could well be where though, if your show is, if it's like me showing you how to make, like I've done my shows, my garden, gardening, backyard gardening updates, or a couple shows ago where I showed you how to make take a fan, a DIY thing, put a filter on a fan and, filter the air that way for $40 instead of spending, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Yeah, YouTube's maybe your place, but maybe not still, because if you're a million pages back in search, that's not cool. So the question is how they will handle their indexing of, and it's a question I will pose to them at some point soon, is the key is how will they handle the indexing of content, which is way more important even in terms of service, because you can deal with terms of service. All right. It's just a matter of basically, playing the game, knowing the rules of the game and playing that game. Yeah, let's get into, well, before we get into that, let's go take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not doing too well. Okay. This is the 1 month view. Okay. So we're going back, we're in December 4th now. And so this will be going back to November 4th. And you see it shot up a little bit, like we talked about yesterday. It shot up a little bit kind of in mid-November, spiked up to about 60, 66, 68, I guess. I remember it being like 66, but if you look at this chart, it looks like it's higher than 66. Looks like it's more like 68, 67, 68. But be that as it may, it was around 66 that I recall from this show. And now it's down to 47. So we're talking about, in the past month, what they're saying is a 23% drop, or $14,000 if you invested a month ago. And depending on when you were in, if you were at that peak, you would have lost, like, say, maybe a quarter, 25% drop. It could have been as high as. I think that's what they're trying to say. I'm not exactly sure. So, I don't know. 25% is a crash. Right? I mean, there's just no other way of looking about it. 10% can be considered a crash. Like I was trying to explain in other shows, it's all relative to the value of, of the market or of the stock or of, in the instance of, this is the Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is also trading. And in its trading, it's doing fairly well. But the coin itself, the value of the coin itself. So this is really complicated because moving forward, digital cryptocurrencies are being, touted as like, this is it, forget about paper money and all that stuff. The thing is, if the power goes out and you have digital currency, you no longer have an ability. You have nothing. It's the barter system. The power goes out and you have a $20 bill in your pocket. You can still purchase something. In the old days, it was coinage, gold and silver coins, and so you would be able to still purchase something. Well, they didn't even have electricity. It's just something to think about because a lot of people are just simply not paying attention to the sun. We know that the scientists who met up in Scotland recently, we know the Davos set, the World Economic Forum, and the climate crisis people, they refuse to acknowledge that the sun exists and it's the major contributing factor to the climate of this planet. I mean, there's this big ball in the sky. It's active. Periodically, it has caused, serious problems. 100 some years ago, a little more than that, a little bit more than that. There was a Carrington event, it was called, that if that were to happen today, and they believe that could be cyclical, that would literally take down our power grid. Okay? I mean, that's no internet, no cell phones, no nothing. Right? And these same people are the people, like I say, that ignore the fact that .004 is a trace. CO2 is a trace gas, and that the atmosphere is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.0 or 0.9% argon. So 99. Back to the percentages again, the 99s. I was going to do a show, and I still might do it, where the title card says 99, the nines or whatever. 99%. 99.9% of our atmosphere is not CO2. Think about that. CO2, methane, water vapor, these so-called greenhouse gases that are, everybody, that the alarmists are all talking about, are trace gases. They're less than 0.1%. In the case of CO2, it's 0.004%. And it's necessary for trees and for you vegans and vegetarians. It's the stuff that makes plants flourish, thrive, and survive. And gives you your food, your nourishment. So unless you plan on stop becoming a vegetarian, we could have a little more CO2. It would just green the planet. You tree huggers out there, I'm a tree hugger. I love trees. You tree huggers out there, yeah. The more CO2, the better. And let's just hope the sun doesn't pop. But yeah, so Bitcoin, I don't know, man. It's too volatile for me. I mean, maybe not for you. But a 25%, approximately 25% loss in a month, that's a freaking crash. And this isn't the first time this has crashed. So, it's, and I bet there, I wouldn't doubt that we see maybe this go up, because as this continues to go down, I mean, look at the tail end of that, how it's really like just diving. But if next week this thing, if this goes down anymore, you might see a big gain, because people are going to buy on the low, hoping that it's going to go back up. And then they're traders. So what they're doing is they're hoping it's going to go back up into the 60s. And so instead of losing, in this case, 14,000, or like I was trying to tell you, I've watched it lose $20,000 per coin. So if someone had 5 Bitcoins, they lost $100,000. But there may well be some traders out there that are going to go in, buy in at 40, hoping it's going to go up to 60, and make $100,000. You see? And so we'll be curious to watch that. La Palma is still active. We know there's like 3,000 houses destroyed, but tourists are like flocking to the island. There's still parts of the island that are somewhat safe or safe. And people are going to see and watch and look at this thing. I mean, I wouldn't. There was like a 500 meter, I think, or 500 foot. I think they were talking in meters. I don't have the whole story in front of me right now. But just yesterday, shooting up, lava shooting up into the sky like 500 feet or something like that. It's crazy. If it was meters, that means it's even worse. It's like a football field and a half, you know. But it still happens, still flowing, and we'll keep you abreast of what's going on with that. The music feature ties into a couple of things. The reason I'm showing you the back of this Firestone album, because the feature is the Firestone, your favorite Christmas music. All right. I mean, here I am. I'm Santa, you know, with the list in my pocket. You know, I know it's all goofy. It's just, you know, it's fun. It's keeping that coffee hot. I have some in a carafe over here. So I'm going to add some more coffee here and see if this will keep this working. Like I say, this is a cheap thing that I paid $9 for on Amazon. I mean, they had some more expensive ones. And I have a thing upstairs that's like an electric pot. You know, it's like an electric stove top thing, whatever you call those things. You know, and I have a mini refrigerator up there. I don't use it, but I have it upstairs. So that like my upstairs technically is like, because there's, you know, bathroom, bedroom, technically a living room. It's like a self-contained unit upstairs. So, I mean, I could cook, plug in that refrigerator, plug in that burner, electric burner, or whatever you call it. And, you know, make pasta or soup and have cold food and cold cuts and stuff in the refrigerator. And not even come downstairs, you know. And I've done that because I had an operation one time and I thought I might not be able to make it up and down the stairs, but it wasn't the case. But anyway, two things about the Firestone albums. If you're old enough, you remember your parents would have had these. Firestone used to give these out every year. It was like their thing. And they had these various artists like Julie Andrews. The bells of Christmas are ringing, you know, stuff like that. I think that might be on this one. Vic Damone, The Young Americans, right? And the lyrics are on the back so you could sing along. And so that brings us to the title card, A Blast from the Past. And look at all these various Firestone albums. And I used to have these. And when I was doing Tony Caravan Live lounge show, which was the longest running lounge show on the internet, it was a music show. And it was written up in several magazines, so it's, you know, it's documented. You know, I had these, but I since, like I said, I had a disastrous situation where someone renting a space where I had my stuff stored totally was a hoarder and destroyed the building, literally. The building ended up being sold for pennies on a dollar. And that was after we spent about $10,000 to try to clean it up. And I spent several days going through that slop trying to clean it up myself, but it was just too much of a task. So anyway, that's kind of it.
Christmas rocks.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful old building alone.
Yeah, so, you know.
It's the holiday season.
And also, it's let's not forget.
That's a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a safe and wonderful New Year.
Yeah. It's still Hanukkah season, too. So, yeah, they used to put out these albums, and, you know, this was a time when, you know, everyone had, in fact, those albums go totally match with this girl holding the title card, okay? That's the period of, you know, that kind of graphic art, and this thing. And I just made this card today, I just put it together real quick. Just took some red and green background and, so a funky loungy type, and there you have it. But it's not about, so the featured album is, you can still get these things. And some people would consider them almost like music. Yes, it's not music because there's vocals, but it's easy listening music. Okay. And it's, but it would be lounge. Now you could see on the one that's in the foreground on the right, it has Jack Jones. So, and I like Jack Jones, man. He's a real lounge singer. But yeah, so it's Julie Andrews, Jack Jones, Vic Damone. I would not doubt if there isn't any Andy Williams on here somewhere.
It's the holiday season.
I mean, and that kind of stuff. I mean, it wasn't like they were nobodies. These were basically the singers of the day. And you can see, here's at least 2, 4, 6, 7. There's at least 7 of them, but I'm sure there were more than that. And like I said, I find that they're available out there. And it seems that someone has gone, and I don't know if they've gotten the rights to it or how they worked it out, but they've you see those silver little things on the bottom? Like little, you'd see on a certificate. You see at the bottom 2 albums, there's like a little silver, star type, not star, but burst there. Yeah, I noticed when I was like doing my research for these, because this was my intent. I had the thought of this first, and then I had to go on a search to find this stuff. That there have been some reissues by, I guess, some people who are doing, putting out vinyl now. And because it's such a classic, part of Americana, it's, it's worthwhile, and there's a market for it. And, and that is the word, Americana. And so when I talk about, that's the one thing these haters miss when they talk about, well, Thanksgiving or Columbus should be Indigenous Peoples Day, or Thanksgiving should be, Friendship Day or something, whatever they say, But it's just as bad as the people who say are against,
It's the holiday season.
Like they think, they drive this, like, you got to say Merry Christmas. It's like, yeah, you say Merry Christmas, as it gets close to Christmas. But, when it's around Hanukkah, it's the holiday season. You could say Happy Holidays or Happy Hanukkah, right? Or Happy Thanksgiving. But if it's like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right? To me,
it's the holiday season.
That's when the holiday season begins, because it's Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas. Sometimes Christmas comes before Hanukkah, or sometimes they're around the same time. They overlap. Then you got Kwanzaa, right? And then you got New Year's. So it's
the holiday season.
And so I don't understand. I get, people are weird, and it's become Americana. I would go so far to say that, if you wanted to, and and if you should, and if you have Jewish friends that see, visit them on if you're welcome or if you're invited, but go and watch them light a candle and see what that's all about, because it's a very, it's a very beautiful thing. and it's it's about good being. It's a good and about peace and love. It's a it's a wonderful holiday. And so it's Americana. It's like some people hold these things in high reverence and feel ownership of a thing, right? But in my book, it's not that way. In my book, these are American. After so many years, a thing becomes Americana. So Thanksgiving is like Americana. It's nothing about some pilgrims and some manufactured story that kids used to enact in kindergarten or something. You dress up like the Indian and I'll dress up like the pilgrim or something. Do you know what I mean? Because I could understand someone having some problem with that. But the concept of Thanksgiving, no, it's Americana. It's Americanized. These are just holidays, right? And again, for some, they're more, like I say, a little more reverence into the whole thing. For others, it's a little bit of each. It's gift giving, community, togetherness. Eating certain foods, and just getting together and celebrating life and each other, right? And that's a good thing. And the idea that, and I don't want to drive you crazy, but
It's the holiday season.
the idea that we, from, the end of November through to the beginning of January, that we have a series of holidays that celebrate community, family, togetherness, right? And that sort of, and peace and love, right? Says a lot about our culture. And maybe is a lesson that should be learned. And I'm not on a high pulpit here giving a thing, and I'm not going to continue this much longer. So don't turn it off if you just tuned in and think that's all I'm going to talk about. But just to finish this thought, that says something about what we, the type of culture, the type of civilization that we ended up building here, that's being, systematically dismantled now. But you in your heart, many songs have been written about it, but you can keep these holidays and you could keep it alive in your heart. And that's often what I say when I talk about, you may have the World Economic Forum that's a, organized crime syndicate. Big Pharma may be more concerned with making hundreds of billions of dollars in profit, right, than really worrying about our health, right? Big Tech is more concerned about collecting data and making billionaires than they are in giving us a better quality of life through the technology that's been created. You see? All that's true. And the country is now a corporatocracy, not a constitutional republic. And there's too many secrets and, all this garbage that's going on. But that doesn't mean that we can't keep the spirit of,
It's the holiday season.
the holiday season alive in our hearts. And that this Americana, this culture, because this is pop culture, this is our culture, not politics, right? And that's what this signifies. And I thought the Firestone Christmas albums, excuse me, pardon me, I'm sorry about that. It's 3:48 a.m. Eastern time. It's very hard to talk. Ask, unless you were up all through the night. Sometimes great recordings were made in studios in the wee hours of the morning, but they were because people slept until the afternoon, got up, and the voice, as the day progresses, gets better. But when your voice has only been up for a couple hours, it's the worst. You don't record an album when you first wake up, put it that way. And I wouldn't advise making having a speaking engagement either. But that's just me. This thing seems to be working. And of course, I'm using my ROCKFLUX mug. But it's keeping the coffee, it's not hot, but it's keeping it from going cold, which is good. We'll give it another half hour or so, see if I still feel the same way. I just tested. I just got it yesterday in the mail. $9 and I got next day delivery. Free delivery, free shipping. $9, for the device. But the question is, like I told you yesterday, if we want to send this tiny little box, and this is how tiny it is. They even call it, where is it? Small flat rate box. This costs $9.23 or something like that to send for us. I bought a $9 mug warmer, and I got free shipping from Amazon. So what's up with that? And this thing might fit in there. So if I were to ship one, say I wanted to buy one of these, say, hey, this is really cool. I'll send one of these to a friend of mine who's always complaining their coffee gets warm or cold. Well, it would cost me over $18 to send it. But Jeff Bezos is worth, $100-some billion. And Amazon is record profits. But you and I, if we want to send some tiny little thing, it's $9. I have some Christmas presents I wanted to send out to a bunch of family members get together at the same house. All right. I can't get there. All right. I don't drive anymore, and I have no way of getting there. And in this whole, craziness that's going on and stuff, it's just not, it even makes it more complicated. Right. So I want to send a box with some, little Christmas trinket stuff. Like I said, I don't have a lot, but I share what I have, in other words, it's like I always say, gift giving is sacrifice. If you have plenty, the harder it is, put it this way, there's two there's two things that make the best gifts. In an ideal instance is when you do a good deed for somebody and they have no idea who did it. That's number one. Okay. It's like the Secret Santa idea. That's the most beautiful gift, that you can do, is to help someone in need and not, stand before the camera or try to beat your chest and, say I did it. And the second thing is the second best way of giving, but it's not mutually exclusive, I think is the term. I don't usually use that phrase. Is to in other words, buy a gift, but by buying that gift, you might do without something yourself. So that it's truly a way of It's truly a gift. Or it's something, or I guess you can add a third to that, or it might, the second and third could be, this part of the same. Make something yourself so that your time, because time is a value, however you want to look at it. Some people say time is money, but that's just sounds too weird. To me, I prefer the idea of the value. There's a value of your time. And so if you make something, and there are many crafts people out there and non-crafts people. Like I always say, creativity is overrated in a sense that, so a lot of people consider me a creative person because I've done all these creative projects. But I always tell people, if somebody says, well, you're creative, I'm like, you're creative too. Everybody's creative in their own way. You just have to do some soul searching or some, just think about it. What you've got the ability to do something. There's a million things you can do. Humans are creative. It's like that fan thing, that's creativity. Put a filter, something that filters bacteria and viruses, and a HEPA filter on the back of a box fan, duct tape it, and run it in your house and buy it for $40. The filter and the fan for $40 or less. That's creativity, So and that's doing something positive too. It's keeping your air clean and et cetera, especially these days. When we don't know, there's so many things we don't know. Like we just don't know about this. Right? We read these stories, but we don't know. We see these advertisements and we see this broadcast is brought to you by Pfizer. Right? The news this morning, the morning show is brought to you by Pfizer. And you see these commercials. So we don't know, right? We don't know. The guy, the biggest proponents of all these things, we find out that they're either on the board or they own a lot of stock in these big pharma companies. So we don't know what we don't know. That's the thing up here, right? Get that shirt. That's, out of all the shirts I have, that's the one that's both subtle, but, most, and in your face at the same time, if a thing can be. Right? It's subtle, but it's in your face. It's the truth in your face. You don't know what you don't know. And that's something that, that's really, I think that's the phrase of the time, I added some hazelnut coffee in with I have this big can. It's like, a normal coffee can is maybe so big, like the traditional coffee can, right? Well, this is a big, wide one of 100% Colombian coffee that I bought at this place, at Aldi or someplace like that. I think it was Aldi. And so I had, it got down to the bottom. And I think it was at Aldi as well, because I have Aldi deliver. I don't drive to Aldi because I don't drive. And so I bought these individual packs of like a vanilla roast and a hazelnut. And if you remember about a month ago, I bought, and I can't find it now, it was at my supermarket, I found some Kona coffee, which is, considered some of the best coffee, out there. And to have the name Kona on it, because they're very strict on the use of that name. So if you see something on the shelf and it says 100% Kona coffee, then it's Kona coffee. And I put some of that in there. This was about a month ago, but that's long since gone, because this is my second can. That was in the first can. I mixed Colombian and I topped it off with a pack of Colombian coffee. But anyway, this is hazelnut. And what I was trying to say here is that, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, this harkens back, a blast from the past, the Firestone. The reason I chose this is that this goes back to a time when, people were just, they dealt with this Americana, and the culture was like kind of homogeneous in a good way. See, today homogeny is like they want you to have groupthink, right? And group speak and control, it's more conditioning, indoctrination, and propaganda, along the socialistic, communistic, authoritarian, totalitarianism, whatever, all those isms, right? And they pretend they're not, they pretend they're anti-fascist, right? But then in effect they are the fascists, right? So, but in these days, here, let me just move this over a little bit. I'll move the girl over. See how it works. See, I can move her right like that. Isn't that neat? Make sure she put her hands just right. It's cool. And you can still see him below there, the morning show mug, right? And the candle burning. Make sure it's not at the top of my guitar is near there. I want to make sure that's not getting hot. Look at that festive thing back there, and there's presents galore. But they're just things from like the dollar store, or Walmart, or cheapo things I've got on Amazon delivered for free. Treats and trinkets and little things to make people put a smile on somebody's face, right? And that's what it's all about, And were there problems, in the past and in that era, I mean, this was happening, I was watching the thing on Apple TV. It was 1971, it's called. And it was a documentary about the music, because it was, they were the footage they put together is pretty outrageous. And, and it wasn't really ideologically bent. I mean, it was bent towards, it was the anti-Vietnam War thing. And in the first episode, I only watched the first episode so far. I'll probably watch some more of them. It's interesting. I'm not a big documentary person unless it's something I really need, or want to have a strong desire to learn about. I'm very familiar with the Vietnam War and the music of 1971, So, so watching that to me is like a blast from the past. So different than Firestone. But, it started out with Marvin Gaye because he kind of broke the mold at Motown, putting out an album that was kind of political and anti-war. And they have some amazing and scary footage from Vietnam in this thing. And then there's they have some classic footage from John Lennon at his house, which was taken from which I've seen before in like a Lennon documentary. I remember years and years ago, whatever. But, and then some other artists of the times. And I guess they're going to go through, different people. And there's some voiceover narration by, Chrissy Hynde, is the first one talking about it, about that time. And so, at that time you're talking about, this is the Vietnam War, these protests, Nixon. It's very anti-Nixon, Vietnam, and, and remember the civil rights movement was just about, all of that stuff was kind of coming to a head and was on the verge of ending. right? So within a few years, the civil rights movement had succeeded. Feminist movement had succeeded. Not in this first episode, okay? And I don't think they're going to cover it that way because they won't. But I know because I was cognizant of this. And people today don't know this. But by the mid-70s, the civil rights movement had ended successfully. The feminist movement had ended successfully. The Vietnam War was over successfully. And 75 was the first year, I think it was 75, I'm not sure, but it was somewhere around that time where there was like a year where there were no draft cards issued. So like there was like an error of a year or so where those, but that was it. So the war was over. You didn't even have to register. All right. And that's when R&B switched to love. And you had, you had, all that really, some of the greatest 70s music ever, right, came out. Because it was all about love. More so, people think about the Summer of Love, 1969 or something like that, like as if, Woodstock, peace and love and stuff. Well, not really, because, remember, well, back in 71, I think, and they covered Kent State also in this too, which was a total ridiculous, unbelievable horror show tragedy. But like I'm saying, the so-called Summer of Love really was a summer of love for certain people, right? But it wasn't really the true summer of love. I would venture to say that the summer of love was probably 1975, but people didn't even realize that. It was like post-civil rights movement, post-feminist movement, post-Vietnam era. And if you listen to the music then, it was love. It was all about love. And there was a sense of awe and freedom, and and you didn't have to worry about, going to war, and and the racism thing, and a woman, what was that? Helen Reddy, I Am Woman, those kind of songs were coming out, right? And you were seeing, women artists like that. Dominating the charts too, who, where in the past were just basically used as, kind of, just dolls, Barbie dolls. But now they were taking, you look at like Carole King, for example, in a sense, and Tin Pan Alley, and these women, they were behind the scenes songwriters who wrote all these great songs, but then, as time progressed, the March of Time came on, and it was in the 70s. Carole King came out with Tapestry, and and they came out with their own albums, and they were being considered as artists, national stage artists, and given all the respect. So the feminism, a lot of people didn't understand that. Or I should say, don't understand that unless you were cognizant of that error. How much, how you just didn't think about it. You see, the way they're force feeding, like they're trying to create divisiveness now and all this kind of thing now. See, it was in your face in the 60s, in the early 70s, because it was a tumultuous period of time. And so that was the focus, because change, there had to be change. The Vietnam War was totally unnecessary, and all those people that died in the horror and everything, it was a tragedy. And just like, the civil rights movement, what was going on up to the 60s and into the 70s, But remember, Marvin Gaye was like, the black artist in Motown had broken through. And Marvin Gaye, as an example, broke through. He was a very popular, they broke through the top of the pops, as they say over in the UK. But I mean, here they were the top of the charts. And speaking of, and even earlier than that, but speaking of Christmas songs, Nat King Cole's Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire and stuff like that. But, the Supremes and all the Motown sounds, it's like they evolved. It was like Marvin Gaye who was the first one that broke away from just pop songs into actually making statements in his music, and it was significant, right? And some of the and then other, but he was like the breakthrough artist, and that's what this documentary on Apple TV's. It's worth watching, But it's really worth watching if you're somewhat familiar with the era, though, because I could see someone younger watching it who doesn't understand it might just get the wrong impression and go, like it's like when they do these period pieces today, and there's a lot of them where like I talked about another one where they show it's like from the 50s or the 60s, and it's a black family moves into a white neighborhood. And people are throwing rocks at their house and treating them badly. And it's like, yes, that's true. That's what people were doing back then. But that was 60, 70 years ago. Okay? The 60s are 60 years ago. 1960, 60 years ago. 1970 was 50 years ago. All right? 1971 was 50 years ago. Actually, it was more than 50 years because we're about to hit 2022. In 30 days, less than 30 days. So it's over 50 years ago. And so what I'm saying is that, yes, at that time, this is the blast of the past, and I'm a pop culture guy, and this is my bag, really. And I specialize in that era. So, that was the time of change. Those were the tumultuous years. And despite, and yes, we don't know who killed Martin Luther King Jr. really. Right? We still don't know. They still won't release the Kennedy archives, and the stuff they release stuff is redacted and stuff is held back, right? So, this whole idea. And remember, it was Eisenhower, literally 60 years ago, who basically coined the phrase the military-industrial complex and warned about it. So during that time, many of the things that are now the real problems, the corporatocracy, this World Economic Forum, these authoritarians, the FBI was spying on John Lennon and Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, the FBI building's still named after J. Edgar Hoover. And that guy was rotten to the core. And why aren't they chopping, those words off, his name off of that building? And just calling it FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation instead of J. Edgar Hoover. See what I mean? Bobby Kennedy was killed, and he had a big problem with J. Edgar Hoover. Now, I'm not talking conspiracy theories here. I'm just raising questions. I'm just saying, those were tumultuous times, and there were some interesting things. And it's funny, in a sad way, that the characters who emerged, that you got a building named after J. Edgar Hoover, who, in my estimate, who was spying on Americans, right, at a time when Martin Luther King Jr. and Bobby Kennedy were killed. All right. among other people. We forget that, we know the big names like Malcolm X, JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., Bobby Kennedy, right? We know that everybody knows those names. And we know Kent State, but we don't really know the names of those 4 students that were killed. Those aren't on the tip of everybody's tongue. But we know Kent State. We understand that. But there were countless others that were killed. And, and the FBI had it was dirty, was as dirty then as it is now. Right? I mean, look at Comey. He's like running free. And those guys, all this news, all this information came out, how they were up to all these dirty deeds. And they're like announcers on CNN or something, paid, consultants or whatever they call them. Right? So, you got to keep that stuff in mind. So that's what was going on at that time as well. And so it was a very tumultuous period, but we got through it. And that's why the music and oddly enough, even the rappers today and stuff, they're sampling some of their big hits and stuff. They're sampling stuff from that R&B, little hooks and intros and little samples of all of that music that came out of the post-civil rights, post-feminist, post-Vietnam era. But they're putting it in songs that are trying to resurrect the past. And that's what I'm trying to say. 50, 60, 70 years ago, there were things. Forget about this 400 year ago stuff or the civil frickin' war. Okay? Like I said before, nobody was here then. I mean, it's a generalization. There were like 40 million people in the United States. All these supposed people get down on your knees and whatever, apologize for being, coming from Europe or something. The major influx of people into America who ended up building the great cities and the infrastructure and all that stuff, those people, I've said it before, didn't come into America until the late 1800s. That was after the Civil War. All right, that was after slavery. All right, they had no problems. They weren't, they weren't the Jim Crow type. I mean, they had nothing to do with that. They were, you look at the Molly Maguires working in the mines. They had kids working in the mines. These people, they had no time to think about politics. They were thinking about their own injustice, right? They were just trying. They were just trying to survive. The company store. They were just trying to live. The immigrants. They were building skyscrapers, working. When they came home from work, they weren't talking politics with their wife. All right, they were basically passing out from working. A 12-hour day. Building a skyscraper, digging ditches, building dams, building highways, working in the mines, and build railroads, all that stuff. You know what I mean? The stuff that all these rich people today can enjoy of all race, creeds, and color. All right? And 400 years ago, man, that was like the British and the Dutch trading company, and those other people, those were the slave traders, and we had a Revolutionary War a couple of 100 years ago against those people. So to blame Americans today who haven't had no skin in that game, you see, is absurd, and they should immediately take that out of any kind of school. They should either teach the truth about it, right, that it was the British and the Dutch, right, and Africans, who were complicit in selling, and people from the Middle East who were slave traders from go back a millennia, all right, and still to this day trade, But they don't teach the truth. But when you get into the and I forget about that's ancient history as far as I'm concerned, and why they try to make these period pieces and teach this stuff to kids in school, to me, is just absurd. And I want to get into negative thing, I mean, sorry about that.
It's the holiday season.
Yeah, it's the holiday season. So let's just get into the happiness here. So this time, when this era of Americana, what I was getting at, I guess, and I just get worked up there for a second, forgive me, was that it wasn't like that. You see? And they've created, and I mean they, meaning today's politicians, today's media, and today's people in the entertainment companies are somehow capitalizing on this emotional, because you see I got emotional with it there, but I caught myself. And they're trying to create this sort of thing, divisiveness, revisionist history, or bringing up, making documentaries. Not the 71 one. That one I think is done fairly well, fairly balanced and true, somewhat true to the era. But I'm talking about some of these other movies and things like that. And the stuff you hear on the news and the other. It's like, it's not that some of these things or most of these things that they talk about aren't true or weren't true. The thing is, they happened 50, 60, 70, 160 or 400 years ago by different people and people that we are not even related to. Most of us. It's another one of those 99.9%. To see, the most important numbers are 99%, remember. Okay? 99% of the people in this country aren't bigots, right? Don't care don't care, aren't like saying, oh, we can't have a female president, right? You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, Hillary Clinton got cheated out of the presidency, right? Just like Bernie Sanders got cheated by Hillary Clinton out of the nomination. You know what I mean? It's all controlled by a corporatocracy. Big pharma, big tech, big data, big ag, right? Big finance, right? That's the world we live in today. It's an organized crime syndicate at the top, and below it, the nation states are now corporatocracies. And to think that you're going to save America, build back better, right? The Great Reset is already in progress. You're in the middle of it, okay? So what I wanted to do is say, but the holiday spirit, I keep playing that thing, and I'm going to play it a couple more times probably, but I need to drink some coffee. I'm digging the fact, look, it's not, they say you should start, or some people put a napkin or something on top of it. It's not super hot, but it's not getting cold, put it that way. It's warm. So I'd rather a warm cup of coffee than a cold cup of coffee. So it's working. Like I say, only spent $9 on it, so hopefully sometimes these heating elements burn out. It's made in China, that type of thing, so you never know. I'll have to, if you buy one of these type of things, make sure you unplug it, when you're not using it. Turning it off isn't enough. You don't trust these kind of things. It's got it's plastic. It's a heated thing, but the outside of it is made of plastic. But pretty ingenious, whoever did it. It's got an on light, like a light on it and stuff. It's interesting. But I like it that it's only 17 watts because, and I want to show you something. See, this is the thing. This is this Jackery, the cheapest one that I bought, the one that runs the on-air light and stuff and different lights. I have another light hooked up to it here, just a little, night light type of thing plugged into it. So if the power went out, I could turn that night light on, grab it by the handle and carry it through the dark, right? That's just my own little invention there. But you could charge your cell phone, run your laptop. But you could also 17 watts would not drain this thing dry. This is a 240 watt, power pack. So you'd be able to, warm up a cup of soup, probably, or something like that. Or keep it warm. So yeah. Anyway, stuff like that. But I want to get back to into this thing. I colorized these things. It's great. It's neat to do this kind of stuff because I love graphics. I always have, because I grew up son of a printer, so that's my background. And you see I'm awake now because I usually don't drink this much coffee, because by now it's usually cold and I end up leaving like the last cup. So
It's the holiday season.
And so Americana, it's the idea that we've gone through changes. The holidays are holidays for all of us to celebrate. And the idea that we have, 1.5 to 2 months of a holiday season, and then we have a summertime that should be treated as like a beautiful time when the vitamin D's coming from that, big ball in the sky, right? It's like, and then there are other holidays, right, throughout the year. And people should just like celebrate instead of arguing. And the fact of the matter is, like I'm saying about this 99%, 99% of the people didn't die from that thing. 99% of the atmosphere isn't CO2. 99.9% of the atmosphere isn't CO2. A lot of kids, if you said that to a kid today, they go, "You're lying," right? And 99%, 99 point something percent of the people aren't bigots. They're not, they don't, that's not the way it is. It's not the real world. And I always say to people, open your eyes, look at the street, look down the street, look in the grocery store, look in the places where you shop, or turn on Netflix or Amazon Prime or HBO. And what do you see when you look at a movie today? Right? Every movie is interracial couples, a lesbian or gay love scene, right? There's a trans gender character in the movie. Do you see what I mean? Practically every show today, right? And throughout history, going back to even the 60s, with Motown, and certainly into the 70s, some of the, the top of the charts, the top, the so-called Billboard 100 was always like heavily weighted with black artists, And certainly, from the 90s, late 80s to the 90s, when dance and rap took over, it's all, you see what I mean? This so-called glass ceiling thing they talk about has been broken. We had a black president for 8 years and stuff. So I'm tired of hearing people try to resurrect and create hatred. Yes, there are freaks out there of all colors, races, and religions. Okay? There are people whose hearts are filled with hate, unfortunately. And they can't embrace these beautiful holidays, and they can't embrace Americana, and they can't forgive and forget. See, that's the other thing. Forgive and forget. Okay? Yeah. we went through some hard times. But the point was, even during the hardest of the hard times and the worst of the worst, it wasn't the majority. It was always a minority of people that were just being picked out. Do you think it's new? Do you think it's just some new phenomenon that the news media has decides to cover stories that are controversial or that point out some kind of divisive issue? No, they've always been trying to sell newspapers, get commercials on radio and television and whatever medium they had, magazine, that's their thing. And divisiveness and hatred and weird stuff that happens, unique things, that's newsworthy, and people are like, oh, and that shocks them, and they pick up the magazine or they watch the TV show and stay tuned during the commercials because they want to hear about the cop that shot this guy or this guy that did this or that. Do you understand? That's been the way it's always been. Okay? But the fact is, 99% of the people aren't doing that stuff. It's even like with these, these shootings and this violence. Well, 99%, 99.9%, 99.999% of kids go to school aren't committing an act of violence. But see, they don't say that. They just give you wall-to-wall coverage and make it seem like, okay, let's see how let's put fear in, let's see how we can scare the death out of kids, right? I mean, that's like this thing now, right? Omicron stricken, maybe a glimpse into the future, right? South Africa investigates sharp increase in hospitalized children, right? Unprecedented, in quotation marks. The Daily Beast, Omicron surge in South Africa is hitting children under age 5. Now, all that is true, but I decided to dig in further before I would put that up, and it's like the number's about 16,000. Is that substantial? Yes. But in a country of 60 million people, all right, 99 point, plus people, including under 5, are not being infected. And according to the South African doctors, the releases that was on Google, mind you, which we posted, was on Google News a couple of days ago, said that the symptoms were mild. Okay? So in other words, are these kids just catching a cold, a flu? All right? Is this the new flu? The catchy flu. And it's 99.9%. See, they're not saying dead, okay? Death. All right? And so this is important. So fear-mongering, there's no place for that, especially during...
It's the holiday season.
So why do they want to destroy people's holidays and fun and happiness? It's like I always, I joked about before, and it's like not a joking matter, but it is kind of like when they came out and said, here's the government. The first time they came out on stage, like at the White House press thing, and they held up this thing, and the first thing in big letters is, wash your hands.
Really funny. Really funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. Wash your hands. As if we're not going to wash our hands. I mean, they got to be kidding me. When I saw that, I could not believe it. And like I say, the one thing they never told people was blow your nose. Right? Because, where it says face covering required, here coming in. And they don't tell you to wear goggles as it goes in through there. So that whole thing is, that hypocrisy just cracks me up. Why don't, if they want to tell the truth, it gets in through your sinuses. Tell you to, basically you should wear a face mask, a full face mask. Like when I went to the dentist, he had the full thing on. When you go in the emergency room, the doctors, they have the full plastic, they have the thing here, but then they have the full thing protecting their, nasal cavity in their eyes from getting any kind of particulate matter. But see, that's all hypocrisy, right? So what you have to do is you have to look through all this stuff. And yes, you talk to a doctor and you talk to nutritionists, stay healthy, keep your immune system up and all that stuff. But don't let these people scare you to death. Don't let these people rule your life, and don't let these people ruin the holidays and all of that. Take it from Santa's second cousin, because otherwise it will be game over. You know what I mean? It will be game over. And that's not, because it doesn't have to be, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to be game over for you. It's game over for the constitutional republic. The corporatocracy's taken over. Look what's going on in Europe and Australia, right? Austria. These countries, they're actually mandating that people get, have these passes and get, proof of this stuff, or they have fines that they can't afford. And apparently in Australia, it's something like they actually have are putting people in these camps, okay? And it's a $5,000 fine if you don't abide by a certain thing. Otherwise, you have to go and you're put in this place. All right? Like they did with the Japanese during World War II here in the U.S. And in some countries, the fine is more than $5,000, right? And so we talk about so-called freedom. And so we have to understand that this is the world we live in now, right? It's like I say with these social media, you have to look at the rule. You take the box and you got to read the little pamphlet or on the back of the box what the rules of the game are. And you got to play by the rules. Or you just have to avoid these people like you avoid a schoolyard bully. Because right now, the politicians, all right, the bureaucrats and the media are schoolyard bullies. That's what they are. That guy with the big F who's on every freaking television station. Thank God I don't have cable TV anymore, but they've got clips of him. You see his mug all over YouTube. I don't click on it. But Mr. Fearmonger himself, the fearmonger guy, who owns, who basically is a vested interest in Big Pharma, right? He's profiting from this thing. I don't know why. See, the reason that the congressmen and senators won't admit that is because they have stock in the pharmaceutical companies too. So they won't call him out on that. But John F. Kennedy Jr., I believe, has a documentary out that does. And and the other thing about it is, this is it's common knowledge. So these people are just playing us, in a sense. So don't let it get to you. Right? Stay healthy. Try to get a good night's sleep. Take your vitamin D. If you live in an area where the sun's still out, at the right angle, and you're getting vitamin D. Like I say, there's an app you can get on a phone. Let me see what it's called. It's called D Minder. The letter D Minder. And what it does is it tells you. It's a free app. It's put together by some, concerned, doctors or people who study, vitamin D3 in the sun and stuff like that. And what it does is, check it out. It tells you the angle, like your location and the angle of the sun at a particular time and what time is the best time to go out and get vitamin D from the sun. See, like where I am now, you really can't get it at this time of year. The sun, even though the sun's out, and if it's a sunny day and it even feels good on your face, you're not getting any vitamin D. Don't fool yourself. So I take a vitamin D supplement in the wintertime, excuse me. But don't do anything unless you consult your doctor or you have a nutritionist or something like that. But this app will tell you isn't a medical thing. It just tells you where the sun is, the angle of the sun, and when optimal, sunshine is in your area and when you're most likely to get vitamin D. And it even tells you when you should turn over, like if you're like laying on a blanket or something like that, poolside or something. It's pretty neat. It's free. But you got to stay healthy. And you got to eat healthy, and you got to have fun, and remember that happiness is a state of mind, all right? The holidays spirit is a state of mind. You want to keep the holidays in your heart if these other people want to take them away from you, right? And don't put hate in your heart. And if you're one of those, like, it's like I said, I don't like these people that are like, Merry Christmas, like Doreen Hanukkah or something. No, it's come on, man. It's like,
It's the holiday season.
No, it's the holiday season right now. And it's okay to say happy holidays right now because there are holidays and there are holidays ahead. Now, Hanukkah ends next week, Monday. Okay? So after that, you can say Merry Christmas if you so desire. But you could still say happy holidays because there's some people that celebrate Kwanzaa and there's people that celebrate New Year's Eve. And then there's like Greek Orthodox Christmas, and do you see what I mean? That goes into January. I mean, there's Boxing Day that they celebrate, in Canada, Britain, Australia. You know what I mean? There's holidays all over the place. So happy holidays. Don't have that thing, because when I see people do that, it's like as if, Trump used to do that a lot too. It's like, we're going to say Merry Christmas. Well, yeah, on Christmas, it's Christmas, and, leading up to Christmas, you could say Merry Christmas. I mean, this is Christmas, and I'm showing Christmas albums and stuff like that. But I'm also saying,
That's a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a safe and wonderful New Year.
You know what I mean? So, all the holidays. And celebrate the holidays. And respect other people's holidays. Okay? And 99% of the people, I think, really do and have. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Is that don't, maybe you can't cut the cord because you got kids and you want them to watch some kind of show on, I don't know, Nickelodeon or Disney or something. I don't know. It's all propaganda now anyway, but I don't have kids, so I have no reason to have TV whatsoever. But whatever the case may be, I certainly wouldn't watch the nightly news or listen to any of that crap. They're just fear-mongering, and they're trying to divide people. And like I say, out here in the real world, like in my neighborhood, which is about as diverse a neighborhood as you can get, it really is, that you don't see any of that stuff that you see on TV. It's just not how it is. And randomly, you might see somebody who looks kind of scary in a supermarket or on the street or something like that, or drive by in a car, you might see some weirdos. But like I say, 99% of the people aren't that way. And it's the same with, like I say, these violent acts that they report and stuff. If they want to report that stuff on the news, that's fine and dandy. But 99.99% of the kids out there are safe when they go to school. 99% of the kids aren't going to get this thing, and if they do, it's mild. I mean, this is what the doctors are saying. This is what the FDA or the CDC has put out. So you have to look at their numbers. Like I say, figures lie and liars figure. And there's too many liars out there manipulating the figures for profit's sake or for divisiveness. And we can't be divisive. This is the season of peace, community, love, harmony, happiness, fun. Gift giving, right? Sharing, caring. Now, people forget all these words. That's what 99% of the people are thinking. Good. 99% of the people are good at heart. Right? And so the media and politicians make a living, and they need issues in order to like rile up, have a rally, and so they could rile up these people. Okay? And the media needs to have some sort of controversial, some kind of divisiveness or some kind of thing that's going to get eyeballs so they stay tuned all day and watch commercials. But when you look at the official ratings, remember, I come from media and advertising background. At the highest levels of both. So I know what ratings are. I've looked at the ratings. I've sifted through the ratings. 99% of the people aren't watching that. So if you're one of those people that has Fox on all day long or CNN on all day long, guess what? You are a super minority. You are something like 1% or a third of the percent of 1% of the U.S. population, because 99% of the people aren't doing that. And you'll say, well, I don't know a lot of people who are watching. Yeah, because in a country of 330 million, 1% of the population is 3.3 million. Right? A third of 1%, the viewers of CNN or Fox, because they both get like a third of 1%, is like 1.1 million people. So the odds are, yeah, you're going to go on social media and you're going to see some site and some guy who's got hundreds of thousands, if not viewers. But that's like nothing. That just supports what I'm trying to explain to you. So if you're one of those, 0.1% or 0.03% or whatever the heck it is, it's as bad as the CO2 numbers that are trace gases in the atmosphere, right? So, wake up to that reality. So maybe you're supporting the problem. Like if you donate to these campaigns, that money goes to support the media, because that money buys the number one thing that the media political campaign contributions go to is advertising. And it's the media who are the number one people who are messing with the minds of the people in this country. And then that stuff goes viral, and then people make a meme out of it, or they take a clip of that and then they put it on YouTube. And then it does get a wider audience, or curiosity seekers might hit it. So then it does get a little bit more than 1%. It might get, several percent of the people. Right? And sometimes some of the network news, if you combine all those in, sometimes it's as high as 10%. Right? So, so you might, but you still have 90% to 99% of the people aren't like that. So to pretend this country was either founded by or at the present day is divisive, has hate, bigotry, or any of that stuff is bullshit. It's bullshit. It's people trying to make money. And if you support that type of thing, all right, then you are just propagating a lie. And you are just adding to divisiveness. You are the problem, not the solution. The solution is celebrate the holidays. The solution is that you should be saying this.
That's a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a safe and wonderful New Year.
It's the holiday season.
This is what you should be doing. And behind me, go to the frickin' Dollar Tree. Go to Walmart. Spend $10 and buy 10 gifts for $1 each. And a cheap dollar roll of wrapping paper. Spend $20. Get some wrapping paper, some labels, right? And some stuff. And just give some stuff. And if you got a next door neighbor, whether you live in a house or an apartment and there's an older woman next to you, get her a little thing, She's not a diabetic. Buy her a little, some cellophane wrapped Santa Clauses or something. Right? Say Happy Hanukkah to your Jewish friends or coworkers. Right? You know what I mean? Just be excellent to each other, like the Bill and Ted movies. And just don't pay attention to these people who are dividing us. All right? They're not dividing me. Like I say, I live where I live. A lot of people question me moving. I bought a cheap house. I want it to be free. Right? That's why I have Freedom is Fun down the bottom of, underneath my ROCKFLUX globe. I wanted to buy a cheap house, and I wanted to have a mortgage, taxes, and insurance that's $200, under $200, so that I could retire young and live free. Right? And do this. And basically, I dedicate my life to creative efforts. Like I say, I write 10 books. I've written all these 50 songs. I do these videos, endless videos. And I'm just trying to wake people up and say, hey, come on, you can be happy. It's your heart. It's what's inside your heart. This coffee is working, man. Please, I hope this thing lasts. At least get me a year out of it, or half a year, till the summertime. I won't be drinking coffee when it gets warmer. Yeah, give me a half a year out of this, and that was $9 well spent. Yeah, coffee's still hot. It's great. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a blast from the past, and like this Firestone thing is just emblematic or symbolic of what, of those times. And like I say, you could look back. It's two views. It's the whole thing, glass half filled, glass half empty. Right? You can be positive or you could be negative. And you could choose to look at the world or the country and people, and you can see the worst in somebody or you could see the good in them. And if you see the good in people, and acknowledge that good in people, that's going to make them, that's going to have an effect on them. All right? If you see the bad in people and treat them a certain way or snub them or give them the, the evil eye or whatever, well, you're just promoting that. Or if you argue with people, if you're in social media and you just, keep arguing on Twitter or these places or going to these things, YouTube sites or these TV sites and commenting negative and spewing hatred, you're adding. You are the problem, as much as those talking heads on the media. But if you walk away from the bully or stay on the other side of the schoolyard, if you don't watch the Foxes, CNNs, MSNBCs, or the network news, then you're free of that. And instead, you just celebrate the holidays. And it doesn't take money. I live below the poverty line. I live in a neighborhood where if I were into this color thing, which I'm not, but that the color of my skin is the minority in this neighborhood. And nobody here bothers me, and I don't bother anybody else. And I walk down the street, and I'm outside, and in the summertime, I'm out every frickin' day. And yesterday, I walked down to the grocery store. All right? And in the type of neighborhood I live in, all the checkout people are black. Okay? You know, that's it. And no one cares. But you care. So that's why I had to mention that. Because when I'm in there, I don't think about that. All right? I just think, that girl's an attractive girl who's checking me out. Now, in your mind, for your sake, I'm saying, but the color of her skin she's black. But she's a cute, nice girl who's the girl in the quick checkout aisle. She's cute. She's nice. She always has something good to say. We always pass a few kind words to one another. But yeah, she happens to be black. So what? Right? But if you watch the network news, or if you're involved in social media, you're saying, oh, that's a problem. There's a problem. Well, let's see. Out in the real world, it's not that way. I lived out in L.A., and I never saw, anything like that. I lived in New York City, and I didn't see problems like that. I lived in Philly. I didn't see problems like that. You know what I mean? And I've been around all of D.C. I lived in D.C. I didn't see problems like that. And like I say, there are problems like that now because the media is stirring the pot. Politicians are stirring the pot. They're trying to create this stuff. And they get kids all riled up with these like revisionist history and trying to make people out doing all this stuff. But, you have to ignore that. And you have to, if you're a parent, you got to tell your child, say, look, I don't know how you say it exactly to a child because I'm not a child psychologist. But something talk to a child psychologist and say, hey, what should I tell my child? So that they can sort this stuff out. Right? What's a way of, how do you say, take it with a grain of salt that, to a child? Because a child's not going to understand that expression. So maybe you ought to talk to a child psychiatrist and say, or some developmental somebody involved in developmental psychology or something like that. So that your child's mind isn't destroyed, that they think the majority of people are bad, because they're not. Because 99% of the people, like I say, in this country or more, are just regular people trying to be happy. People really want right now. People need a hug really bad, because that's what And children, what they really need? They need a frickin' hug, because, if you talk to child developmental psychologist and child psychologist, I've watched them, in speeches and stuff, and talk about how important, bonding and hugs are to, in those early years. And even as you get older. And it's like this idea of when I see them, all this distancing and masking and all this other stuff, it's like, okay, do what you got to do. But once don't try to turn us into some kind of cold, weird creatures and stuff. Because we need a hug every now and then. We need to be told, we need someone to talk about love, not hate, right? We need to have a sense of community. We need to have, we need to know that, there's nothing wrong with Americana and the holidays and things like that. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Celebrations and having little feasts and get together and things. That's life. That's our culture. All right? That's the real pop culture. Politics isn't pop culture, but that's what they're making it out to be. And this cult of personality, and I'm sorry, where you've got all this cult of personality around Trump, or this cult of personality around Biden, or this cult of personality around these Davos set, or that Klaus guy from the World Economic Forum, who reminds me of like dictators of days gone by, or that F guy who's trying to mandate all this stuff, and these people that are involved in this.
Your papers, please.
This kind of garbage. It's just wrong, right? That's a word you don't hear. Man, that's wrong, right? Or another one, from back in the 90s, that's cold. I'm down to the bottom. I'm going to turn this off because at the very bottom, it's hot. That was great. I drank it. Good to the last drop. And the show's almost over. And my coffee was hot to the tot. Hot to the tot, right to the bottom,
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, and I hope I think I started out a little tired. I'm woken up, I guess, caffeinated. But, I got on a little rant there for a little while. But I think all in all, I think I got this show across to people. And I think it was a blast from the past at certain points. And like I say, look behind me. It's the holiday spirit. I don't have much, but I share as much as I can. I'm sharing with you to do this. I hope it helps. I hope you do the same. It doesn't cost anything or much to be good, to make someone else happy. And creativity is something that everyone has. That comes from your consciousness, from your mind, your soul, if you will. Not necessarily your bioelectric brain. That's the thing that they manipulate. That's the thing they indoctrinate. That's where conditioning occurs. All right? And then there's the heart, It's like they even say there's a neural, it's not even a say, it's been proven now that there's like a neural network in your gut. And, your heart has part of, has the feelings, they've discovered that. So, there's a reason why they say, your heart, feelings in your heart. And the heart has been, associated with, love and feelings and things. So, think, don't be afraid to think from the heart, follow your heart. If you have a gut reaction to something and it's, positive feeling about something, don't let people rule your lives, manipulate your lives. You could, just have fun. Freedom is fun. Be free. It's in my book, Then What? Like I say, I talk about that, and I have some forms, but you could do it on your own, and I've talked about it on other shows about creating likes and dislikes. That's why you need to it's $9.95. It's a print version. Look, I'm sorry for, it sounds like I'm hawking something. The point of the matter is, I don't make a lot of money on this stuff. I don't think anyone's bought the print version. I bought a few because I get them wholesale, and I've gave them out, and some of them are actually some of what these wrap things are. I'm giving them out as Christmas presents to some people. So you could do whatever you want to, but, I'm just trying to tell you, point you in the right direction, and, and say that, The holidays, peace, love, understanding, caring, sharing, giving, these are good things. And 99% of the people are that way. It's just that in a big country, in a big world, yes, there could be 1 million, 3 million bad people. Okay? But that would only be 1% of the population. So it means 99% of the people aren't that way. And we can't rule our society and torture the minds of children to make them think that everyone's bad. Someone's got to talk. I seem to be the only guy who uses the 99% thing, Most people are good at heart. And hopefully you are too. Anyway, that's that, Good morning. Right.
That's a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and everybody have a safe and wonderful New Year.
Visit my site, ROCKFLUX.com, and, get a shirt. It's still not too late to get this stuff. They usually ship this stuff, ships out within the week. If you have Amazon Prime and stuff, you get the stuff in a day or two. Get my book, my print book. It's only $9.95. And like I said, and there's a link to Great Solar stuff on there. And I don't make anything on this stuff. I make a few pennies, 10, 50 cents. It depends on the item. That's not what it's about. Support the show. Maybe I can improve this. But it's really, most importantly, it's going to improve your life. Because that's what I do this for. Anyway, take care. Have a great day.